Alright, hello, welcome to our last editing video before we move on to mixing. For this tutorial, we are just going to create a looping ambience. And what that means is as it plays and it plays to the end, if it goes back to the beginning, then it loops without any clicks or pops while still sounding natural as if it never looped or repeated or made a jump or anything like that. Alright, so the first thing we need is to have all these three audio clips be the same length. To do that, we are going to be using the skills we've learned previously to trim the clips and to create fades. Like we have kept our fades here. I've just gotten rid of the fade ins and outs of these clips just so we can easily choose where we want our new fades to go. What we're going to do is we're going to make this clip a little shorter, and we're actually going to make this longer even though it's actually physically not as long. And we're going to do that using a crossfade to loop the sound and have it still sound natural, as if it just continued instead of replaying as part from before. So what we're going to do is, one rule of thumb when we are editing ambiences is to always trim the beginning and the ends of the original audio file, because as you can see, there's a fade that is already kind of baked into this clip. We don't want that fade in our ambience. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim that out. You can either click and drag with the trim tool, or you can just hit A to trim from the beginning of the clip, and at the end here you can hit S, and that just takes the fade out. I'm zooming in and out with Option Scroll here, but of course you can use T and R. I find I just use like a combination of all of them. So now I'm pretty happy with the way this clip has been edited, so we're just gonna leave it like this for now, and let's edit the next one here. I'm just gonna select the track, Shift S, and just take a listen, looking at these big transients here. They all sound pretty... Alright, so I took a listen to all of this, and I'm not a big fan of that. It doesn't really match the picture. Maybe if we were a little closer to the traffic, but it's a little bit distracting to me for a background. So I am just going to select it, B, to separate the clip, and I'm just going to delete that part. You can also just quickly delete it by selecting and deleting. You don't need to separate the clip initially at all. You can just select and hit delete. Just going to take this, drag it here. Another way is to tab to the clip bound, control click. But actually you do want it to overlap a little bit. The reason is, if you're not overlapping, when you're creating crossfade, you might have some of that previous part that you cut out in your crossfade. But if you overlap it, then you are crossfading these handles here that you just overlapped from, and you won't have that middle part that you already cut out. So I created the fade. I'm just going to listen to it to make sure it's smooth. Alright, it sounds pretty smooth to me. I'm just going to keep it like that. You'll notice that we have all three tracks, but they're all at different lengths. So now let's make everything the same length. Let's zoom in by just clicking here and then hitting T. I'm going to hit Tab and T again. So now you're zoomed in. You'll notice that I actually did line up these two perfectly, but let's say that we didn't. It's like this. What you can do is, we want to start at this one. So I hit Tab, I'm at this clip bound. Let's do semicolon. So we go to the next one, hit A, semicolon, A. All right, and these three are at the exact same starting point. I want to create a fade for all of them. The exact same fade, exact same time of the fade for all three. I'm going to click and drag. We're going to do 2 frames. If your grid is not in frames, you can check that by going here and hitting the arrow button and just making sure you're in frame. If you're in second, it'll obviously be seconds, but I'm gonna do frames. You'll see that my grid increments are in frames. So I'm just selecting the first 2 frames across all 3 by clicking and dragging and hitting F. I'm okay with a linear fade for this one, so let's just keep it that way. Let's zoom out by hitting R. Going to the end here. This time we'll make a selection, hit Option F. Now I've zoomed into this selection area, hit R. So now I'm a little zoomed out. I'm gonna go right here, just anywhere before the clip bound, hit Tab, so I'm at the nearest clip bound, semicolon down, S, semicolon down, S. And same thing, zoom in, select 2 frames across all 3 audio clips and hit F. Zoom out again with R. Now we have an ambience that starts and ends at the exact same time with 3 different elements. A little bit more walla and like people and footsteps, crowd. We have one with really, with some distant traffic, heavy horns, intense horns, and we have some trees here for the central park. But let's say you don't want your ambience to just fade in and fade out. You want it to loop as you listen to it. First, make sure you have some space here in the beginning. If you don't, just select your clips and just move them down a little. Next thing you'll do here is we're going to get rid of those fades that we just made in the beginning and at the end of your ambience. So again, I'm just going to select, hit Option F, and then hit T until I'm a little bit more zoomed in. And I'm just going to delete all my fades. Zoom out with Option Scroll. Zoom in with T, tabbing to the end, and just getting rid of all these fades. All right, so now I'm going to use R to zoom out. Now we have no fades on either the beginning and the end. And you're going to see why we did this when we want to create our looping ambience. So, if you zoom in, really zoom in, and I'm just going to increase my waveforms a bit so it's easier to see, you'll be able to see each waveform super detailed. Now, if you separate this clip by hitting B, even without a fade, you'll notice that there is no click or pop, even though we separated the clip. And that's because when you zoom in, the waveform lines up perfectly. Let's just heal that clip, Command H, and I'll bring down your waveform so it doesn't look crazy like that. All right, so how we're going to create that perfect looping ambience is you're going to need the end of every waveform to line up perfectly with the beginning. So the last waveform here at the end has to line up perfectly with the beginning. That way when you loop it, there will be no click or pop. This is a really easy way to loop anything that you might need when you're editing. So ambiences or like a car engine or a spaceship or something like that. So how we're going to do that, just click so you have your playhead kind of near the end here. I'm zooming in a little. I'm going to hit B to separate the clip. I'm going to hit B to separate the clip here. And maybe like here. Select the clip that you just separated, and I'm going to drag it to the beginning. Same with this one, drag it to the beginning. I'm just going to leave a little space for now. All right, now remember, this currently lines up perfectly with this. So we cannot drag this out, otherwise it will not line up perfectly with this. We also cannot drag this out, otherwise that will not line up perfectly with the end of our clip. But we messed it up. We made this so it's not, they don't end at the same spot. These don't begin at the same spot anymore. That is okay. How we're going to fix this? I'm going to hit tab here just so I'm at the beginning of this clip region, and then zoom in by hitting T. I'm going to move this so it overlaps a bit, and then I'm just going to line this one up to here. And we're going to line this one up as well, but I'm going to use the control click. I already have this selected. I'm going to control click, and it lines up perfectly. Now this one already overlaps, so I'm just going to create a crossfade here. Take a listen to that. Sounds smooth to me. I'm just gonna drag this one out. You can drag this part out because you're gonna fade out into here. You cannot drag the beginning out because right now it lines up perfectly with the end. So drag this out. Oh, but it ends. That's okay. Drag this out. Oh, but it ends. What you're gonna do is just gonna fill this space with something else. We have to trim a little bit from the end anyways. So let's just take a little bit from here, separate the clip. This time I'm going to Command X, which is cutting it. I'm gonna scroll here by taking Shift and scroll. I'm just gonna go to a part where I know, I'm just gonna go here a little bit further away and just paste it. Trim that a little bit, and I'm gonna move it right here. Create some crossfades, this time using this bottom, using the crossfade at the bottom here. And then make sure you're soloing this track. Now for this last one, we're just going to bring this out, do a little crossfade, solo that track. Sounds natural to me. So that sounds good. We've made all of these line up perfectly from the beginning, and these crossfades sound natural as well. Of course, yours might not look exactly like this. It may look and sound a little different, but just make sure you're using your crossfades to make it sound natural in the transition from one clip region to another. And also you're making sure that this end lines up perfectly with this beginning here by cutting off some of the end and moving it to the beginning and not trimming the beginning of this clip or the end of this clip. All right, so now let's make it so these line up perfectly with the front and are the same length. I just dragged it like that, which you can do if you like. So obviously we don't want to cut this off because it lines up perfectly with the beginning, but it's a little too long now. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to move this clip a little forward, and you'll see that it adjusts the crossfade region to make it shorter. All right, so now it lines up perfectly, and I believe I moved it far enough where it actually got rid of the crossfade here. Maybe I just want to make it a little longer here and then just redo the crossfade. Take a listen to that clip. Perfect. And it sounds natural. Last thing is just this last clip over here. I took out a little bit of that middle part, but just to move it to the end there, we can just drag it out and just keep that, creating a little crossfade here. Perfect. As you go, just save. Make sure you're saving. Command S for Control S, same as your machine here, whatever, depending on what you're using. So now we have a perfect looping ambience. And how you can double check is making sure your play mode is on loop. You can right click on the play mode. It should look like this for you, but if you hit loop, then no matter what you select, it'll loop it automatically. So just for example, let's just select this one here. It loops. So I'll listen to it to make sure it loops. I'm also just keeping an ear or eye out on anything that I might want to change with maybe the crossfades or editing out anything. So let's just take a listen. All right, so you would have seen that that was a perfect loop for any instance that you might need it. Obviously, when you're editing film, you'll probably want it to fade in and fade out, but your clips might not be long enough that you want them. So what we usually do is, we separate this part and move that here, and then maybe we separate this part and we move this to the end as well. Maybe we can loop this part. We can loop this part. So we just select that and then move that there. And what you're doing is just looping parts of your existing clips, making it sound natural until it fills the length that you that you need for your scene. And once you've filled up your entire scene, you just create that fade out. There you go. That's your ambience. In the next video, it'll be the last one. We're going to be doing some basic mixing. As you can probably tell as you've been editing this, some aspects are just way too loud. Some of them is not loud enough. The trees, you definitely can't really hear them except for this one part over here. It's distracting. This would never fit or work in a movie as just a background track, because you need to be able to hear the characters. You need to be able to hear what's happening right on the screen, not just the backgrounds. So in the next one, we're going to be mixing so that these 3 tracks fit the picture, but also fit a transition from a wide shot into another shot more inside of the park instead of just like from the outside view. All right, see you in the next one then.